Hello and welcome back to Shakesyear. We are working on Edmund Ironside and we get to hear from Canutus again in Act 2, Scene 3. So we're going to mention a little bit of gore that we've been talking about for the last couple days. So if that's an issue, then please tune out and maybe tune in tomorrow. But yeah, in Act 2, Scene 3, we get to see, and in this monologue also that we're going to hear from Canutus today, we sort of get to see really well who he is. We've gotten to see him a little bit as a king before, where he said he's going to help his Danish countrymen who don't understand why their former slaves are revolting against them. And then we saw him sort of coerce the Earl of Southampton into presenting his daughter, who then he proposed to and then got married to really fast. And he's like itching to go to war with Edmund Ironside, but had to be sort of talked down from that by his advisors. And then earlier in this scene, he's absolutely furious that Turkillus and Leofric have deserted him and gone over to side with Edmund Ironside. So he brings out their sons, who he had been holding captive, and cuts off their hands and noses for the same reason that Wesley wants to injure Prince Humperdinck to the pain, not to the death, so that this can be a lingering humiliation throughout the rest of their life and a warning to everybody else. This is what happens when you betray a king. So he does that. The boys are mutilated, or the young men are mutilated, technically by Stitch. Stitch is the one that actually carries it out, and he's a half-brother of Edricus, who is now working in Edricus's service. And the two boys are carried off the stage after they've been mutilated, sort of cursing him and saying, like England should never trust a foreign king, and which feels like a very weighted statement as they're leaving. But after they've left, a messenger comes in and hands Canutus a letter and is like, I've got these letters from the front. Those soldiers that you sent up north to fight Edmund Ironside have all been killed. And Canutus takes the letters and looks at them and says, "'Tis wonderful. What? 20,000 slain of common soldiers? This unwelcome news nips like a hoary frost our springing hopes, and makes my fearful soldiers hang their heads. Come hither, Edricus, void the company that you and I may talk in secrecy." And then everybody leaves except for Canutus and Edricus, so it's just the two of them on stage now. Edricus. What had I best to do to race out this dishonorable blot out of the brass-leaved book of living fame? Shall it be said hereafter, when report shall celebrate my noble father's acts, that Canutus did lose what noble Swanus got? Shall it be said that Edmund Ironside, unfriended, poor, forsaken, desolate, did overthrow the power of mighty Canutus, whose wealth was great, friends more, but forces most? Never, since Edmund was a force to bear a massy helmet and a curtle axe, could I return a victor from the field, unless, as I remember, thou betrayedst the gallant stripling once into her hands. Then, had not valor hewed him through our troops, that day had made an end of all our griefs. But now, what now? Oh, tell me, if thou knowest, how shall I extribute my stock and name, that after age may not report my shame? So, Canutus reads the letters and is very upset by this. He just lost 20,000 soldiers. He's like, this is a bit too much, and he tells everybody to leave so that he can talk to Edricus, which is interesting, given that Edricus has shared with us in a speech when he was by himself on stage that he's willing to play for either side and really just wants to be on the winning side, but he doesn't really like either king, but he likes Canutus just a smidge better, but he's perfectly happy to stab him in the back if Edmund Ironside is going to win. We know that Edricus is not necessarily on the up and up, is what we're saying here. But then also this this also speaks to why Turkillus and Leofric left, because they felt that they should have been held in higher esteem, whereas Edricus was always the one that was turned to for more support, for more advice, all that kind of thing. So even if Turkillus and Leofric hadn't left, the fact that Canutus is still going to Edricus as like his number one advisor here is very telling. But once the two of them are alone, he's like, I don't know what to do here. How do I do this? You know, my father gained all of these lands. Am I gonna lose them? And is that how I'm gonna be remembered by history? You know, my father made all these gains. Is history gonna say of me that I lost everything that my father got? He's like, I don't know how we beat Edmund Ironside. And then he's like, wait a second, there was that one time when we got him, but sort of through luck, he got away from us. If that hadn't happened, we could have gotten rid of him then, and we wouldn't have to worry about any of this now. So hindsight being 20/20. But he's like, but you know, that's not the case now. I just sent 20,000 men north, and they all failed. So what do we do now? How do I make this so that my war against Edmund Ironside doesn't end with me losing and being shamed for all time? And Edricus is going to respond in the form of a monologue tomorrow. I know you saw that one coming. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow for that one. Mwah.